No, you dumbass. It's a really elaborate fart.
Well, at least I won't die alone. Well, that's just typical.
Well, that's just typical. Great line. Justin Lin, I would like to extend to you a personal apology from me. If you would like to direct the next Star Trek movie, you go right on ahead. Never, ever, ever does this happen, where a trailer looks so freaking shitty and then the movie is amazing. That never happens. It's always the other way around. I am ecstatic right now. I really am. So if after that I can start off with a nitpick, there's something weird about Karl Urban's lines in the first few scenes when he's on the ship with Jim. The writing itself is fine. When he's like, "Jim, you look like crap," it was good lines that made me laugh. But when he's talking in the bar to him, it's like, I would have suspected it was like a different voice actor if I didn't see Karl Urban right there saying it. It was weird, and he's like, "That stuff's illegal." There was something off about that, but whatever, it was fine the whole rest of the movie. Star Trek Beyond's first act is absolutely glorious. When the Enterprise is just getting its ass handed to it by the little swarm things, the cinematography is beautiful. The sound design is amazing. The lasers are punchy. Those little crawl ship, there was one that's like whizzing. The starships, when they hit like rock, they feel so dense because like these are like future grade metals colliding into rocks, and they're just destroying the rocks, and then the metals are fine because they're so strong. So you really feel the impact of that. You know what sound I absolutely love is the abandoned ship alarm. When that happened, I'm like, oh my god. And just the on-deck ship combat is like, I freaking love it. I love starship to starship combat, and I love combat on the decks of a ship. When all the pods are like breaching the walls and you got the red lights flashing and it's a little hazy and the camera's panning back, that scene felt straight out of First Contact and it was amazing. And you got all the aliens coming out and in their full plate armor going pew 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 pew. I love how there's none of this like, behind cover nonsense. It's just, these are energy weapons at point blank range. It's do bam, we're all dead. And when the Enterprise is finally going down and Kirk stays in his captain's pod a little bit longer just to look at the bridge and it plays the Star Trek theme, it was just great. And then the pod drops out. There is a definite overuse of that theme in this movie. You can have it at the end and you can have it when the Enterprise goes down. Other than that, you need to make your own music, and they kind of dropped the ball in there. What gives, Giacchino? What gives? Star Trek Beyond also moves at a breakneck pace. It is just like tension throughout the whole movie. You got Spock and Bones stuck together, and their dialogue between each other is great. They get the Leonard Nimoy like send-off scene, and that made me cry. And you got Jayla and Scott. Jayla in the trailer looked like just feminism incarnate. But in the movie, she could not have been further from that. She didn't have this agenda like, oh, I gotta go around threatening everybody, like I got something to prove. She just wanted off the planet. That was all she wanted. Just like, I'll work with you, please, you fix this, I'll help you. And from her limited use of the English language, it felt like that like childlike innocence, and how she was like afraid to go back to the camp where she was held. This movie has a lot of just little touches that also are just really good. Like when they finally lift off the planet, and J-Lo's just like, it just shows her eyes and then shows the planet backing away. That's just a great little thing. And then when the USS Franklin is going into the swarm, you see Kirk's hand like kind of, I don't know if you can see, this is probably out of frame. You see Kirk's hand like grip the console. I love Kirk too. Kirk is a lot more mature in this movie, and he feels like a capable leader, but he's still got that cocky air to him when he and Chekhov are going through the Enterprise, and he's like, "Captain, what if you missed?" He's like, "Come on, I'm not gonna miss." Though I got to say, for a guy who got his ship taken away from him, you have no idea how many tries it took to get that line right. In the last movie, him applying for Vice Admiral was a little too rushed. Remember how I said the cinematography was really good in regards to the Enterprise? It gets to the hand-to-hand combat, and then it's all like, hey-ya, 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 yeah, hey-ya. Oh great, now the camera's out of focus. There were a couple other things I noticed. I saw the movie in 3D, and there's a pan of the camera looking over like the encampment where they hold all the prisoners, and there's all these rocks, and they're like all coming this way because you're looking over them, and one of them just starts going in the wrong direction. It's like, oops. Also, if you look very, very closely at J-Lo's right sideburn, it looks glued on. The biggest issue I have with this movie is Crawl. After the sophistication and articulation and just amazingness that was Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan, he's a definite step down. He's back to Nero levels of villain. You're using Idris Elba, too. You have a good, capable actor, and then you cover him in makeup and make him talk like a lizard. What a waste. And those are the only scenes where the movie slows down, where he and Uhura are talking together. It's like, why is Uhura walking around with him? She's a prisoner? That doesn't make any sense. I would have guessed, because in the trailer when he's like, this is where the frontier pushes back, he sounded like Graham McTavish, the guy who plays Dwalin in The Hobbit, and that was awful strange. That line, he says that completely differently in the movie. I don't like Crawl himself, but I like the history behind him. I think the henchmen themselves, they look really cool, but they needed a more interesting leader than Crawl. And that's the point at which this felt like a very, 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 like, confined single story in the Star Trek universe. It felt like an episode of the original series. You know, the whole, like, on the planet, and then there's the reveal about the villain at the end, and it doesn't have anything to do with the last two movies. It's just its own little self-contained thing about the USS Franklin and how everyone went mad and found this technology that prolongs life. That I thought was cool. The movie gets pretty intense for PG-13 too. When Crawl's like sucking the life from those two Enterprise crew members and you see the woman with her blonde hair hanging and she's all like going like that. Don't bring your kids to that scene. It was pretty dark. On the whole, I would recommend seeing the movie in 3D because when they have to drop the USS Franklin off the edge of the cliff, there's a pretty cool and you see everyone like fall against their seatbelts and like approaching the ground. That was sick in IMAX. All the space visuals in 3D look really good too when the USS Franklin is going into the giant wave of the swarm and it like rides them up like a surfboard. I also like how they literally destroy the enemy with the power of rock and roll. I bet the director was just like, I want to do that. Somebody tell me how we can do that. And then they came up with the story around that. This movie's not without flaws. I've been listing them throughout. And also, during the final scuffle on the Yorktown, which was visually a very distinct scene, like that did not look anything like the last two Star Trek movies. It felt like a sequel. But yeah, Kirk totally has a phaser on him, and he could have just killed him right then and there. And then after he kicks the phaser out of his hand and climbs up the ladder, Kirk just goes after him instead of grabbing the phaser and shooting him. Okay. It took me out of it for a second, but it by no means compromised the experience. Also, where the hell is she? They made this big deal about how she's part of the ship, part of the crew by the end of the second movie, and she is nowhere in this movie. Maybe she felt she was objectified too much in the last one and didn't want to do it anymore. Holy smokes, was I wrong? Holy smokes. Am I excited for a fourth Star Trek movie with or without J.J. Abrams? It's imperfect, but it's one of the few must-see movies of the year. And I have to give Star Trek Beyond a 9 out of 10. I gotta have a spring in my step tomorrow.